Hello friends, peace and love. John Bush here with Brave New You Self-Improvement Group, Brave New You Recovery Support Group, Brave Botanicals, Center for Natural Living, all things that are good. And today I want to talk to you, I want to share my 3 biggest epiphanies when it comes to self-improvement, self-growth, and business mastery. All this stuff, of course, can be applied in your business life and in your family life and in your life in general. I've been feeling more called to do videos, and I've been doing more talks and speeches. Hey Jonathan, thanks for joining. And really feel like I'm getting my groove back like Stella, or getting my mojo back like Awesome Power. So I'm going to be bringing more live videos and sharing more of the knowledge and wisdom that I picked up over the past several years of studying this topic of self-growth, self-improvement. And there's a lot of heavy stuff going on in my life, and I realized the other day that whenever things are going a little wild in my life and I'm going through hard times, I feel more compelled to share with others and to help others. So that's where I'm at now. And yeah, let's get right to it. I want to share my 3 biggest epiphanies, 3 takeaways. So there's 3 fundamental things when it comes to self-improvement and self-growth that I can point to as having the most impact in my own journey. And I imagine that these 3 things will be extremely helpful for anyone that's looking to grow or improve their life, find more peace, balance, center. These are the foundational things. There's also building blocks that can be placed upon that. But these are 3 foundational things. If my audio's off or if it's too windy or anything, let me know. I'm driving to go pick up my kiddos. Hopefully we don't lose signal, but it seems to be going pretty good so far. Alright, these 3 areas are, without further ado, the first one is number 1, because I believe it to be most important. It's mindfulness. The power of mindfulness, being present in the moment, free of judgment, free of analysis. This is the foundation of all self-improvement, self-growth, because it enables you to take yourself out of the program that's been imparted upon you by your surrounding, by your family, by your community, by the culture, and it allows you to choose your own path, basically to be the master of your destiny. That's what mindfulness enables you to do. Without mindfulness, you're just a drone going on with the program. The second area is law of attraction, manifestation, power of positive thinking. Basically the idea that your thoughts create your reality. Your thoughts and perceptions create your reality, and nothing could be further from the truth. There's a lot of people that doubt it, say it's new age, hairy-fairy, but if you believe it, if you are mindful of it, then you can dramatically change your life. And then the final epiphany, which I think is often overlooked in a lot of improvement, self-improvement circles and guru kind of stuff, is the power of habit and taking massive action. The first 2 are more of an ephemeral thing and are more metaphysical. They're absolutely foundational and important, but without the massive action, without the changing of your behavior and your habits, then it's all just like reading books and feeling good about, it's basically where the rubber meets the road, the habits and the massive action. So I'm going to explain a little bit more about each of these areas and share some stories about how this has impacted my life. So the mindfulness, again, it's the essence of Buddhism, and the Buddha espoused this, other spiritual beliefs espouse this, and again, it's the idea that mindfulness is essentially being present in the moment, in the present moment, free and clear of judgment and analysis. And of course, many people are familiar with meditation. Meditation is the means to an end, basically, for mindfulness. Meditation is like practice for the big game. Mindfulness is the end, what you're looking for. And so mindfulness can help us, because when we're not mindful, when we are thinking about the past, we could feel stressed, anxious, sad, depressed. When we're worrying about the future, we can feel anxious and insecure and worried. But when we're in the present moment, where more often than not, unless you're having some sort of physical calamity, that all things are good. Life is good. Life is peaceful. That's where we can be at peace. And when you practice meditation and you learn to be mindful, it really increases the chances that you'll have success in your self-improvement and self-growth, or in your business or entrepreneurship, or even as an employee, because it enables you to think outside of your own program. So a lot of human beings, we've been imparted upon us when we're children, when we're young adults, even when we're adults, whether it's a parent pushing their view of the world on us, or using manipulation or coercion in order to mold us to their ideal human or whatever they think. Or more often than not, a lot of parents try to mold their children so they don't feel insecure about the way their kids are behaving in front of others. Or maybe it's culture. In high school, for example, everyone's got to be up with hottest trends, and everybody's got to be wearing the nice dress, and gossip this, gossip that. A lot of insecurity going on. So we pick up on these agreements, as the Toltec wisdom calls them, like the 4 agreements. We pick up on these agreements. I call it programming. We're programmed, and most humans just carry out that program. When there's something stressful that happens with their children or their significant other, they snap and they yell. That's what they learn. That's the program. They don't even know why they go to the ballot box, for example, and they rely on government to solve their common problems with their other fellow human beings. It's just what they've learned. It's the program. Mindfulness enables us to be aware that there is a program going on. And if we're able to learn that there's a program, which is really extremely beneficial, groundbreaking knowledge when you can see like there is a matrix, right? Then mindfulness is what helps us to realize in the moment when we are carrying out the program, and to snap out of it. So, for example, when one becomes mindful of their emotions and their feelings inside, you are able to interrupt a pattern from playing out. So an agreement, program, and a pattern has been imparted upon you when you early on in childhood learned how to react to stress or tension with a significant other, right? So if you had parents that would yell and fight with one another when they would get stressed out and angry, that is what you learned. You believe that to be normal behavior. Being mindful and present with your emotions, if when you start to feel angry or irritated or stressed out, frustrated, you start to recognize that. So anytime that you are angry or frustrated, see it as an opportunity. Okay, I realize that I'm frustrated and angry right now. What do I feel like physiologically? Where is their energy going? Where is the focus going? Where are there changes in my body? Maybe it's a tightness in the chest. Maybe it's a burning in the stomach. Maybe it's an irritability in your overall body. Start to get mindful with that, present with that. Also, what kind of thoughts? What's the voice in your head? What's the tone like whenever you're feeling angry? So on and so forth. And then you start to meditate on that and start to remember that and start to be mindful of that. So in the future, when those cues arise, when that phenomenon arises, you are then able to snap out of it and interrupt the program. So there's a tension going on with you and your significant other, there's a fight going on, an argument, and all of a sudden you feel that heat in your stomach. One of my things is my eyebrows kind of cringe down when I respond to people, and the people around me notice it, and they're like, eyebrows, right? I'm beginning to notice it. And so when that happens, you're like, oh, there's those cues. Those are those feelings that I get whenever I get angry. And unfortunately, I have this pattern sometimes where I snap, right? So then you can interrupt that pattern. Oh, there's those feelings, there's those emotions, there's those sensations, there's those thought patterns. Okay, I know that oftentimes, as a response to that, I snap. I act in a way that's not in line with the person I want to be. So I'm going to interrupt that. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to focus on some mindful breathing. And I'm going to change the game. Mindfulness helps immensely. So a quick tip to become better at mindfulness: practice being mindful and present with your breath. Our breath isn't some bracelet that we have, or some 30 minutes you set aside, or some class you take at the YMCA. Your breath is always there, and it's always a tool to bring us back to the present moment. So whether it's in the moment when you're needing to take breaths so you can cool down and interrupt a pattern, or when you're just chilling and you want to practice your meditation, practice mindfulness, you can just sit back, relax, be mindful and present with your breath. Concentrate and focus on the out breath and the in breath. Try to block out any other ideas, thoughts, interruptions from your brain and your mind, and focus on the breath. This is training us to be mindful and present with something in the present moment. And the beauty is, a lot of people get frustrated whenever their mind begins to wander, which is only natural. Unless you've practiced meditation for years and years and years, this is going to happen. But it presents an opportunity for you to practice mindfulness, because once the thought appears in your head, you be mindful of the thought. Okay, instead of the thought just taking your brain and taking your attention away from the breath, and you're no longer in control, you're no longer mindful, notice the thought. Oh, I was just thinking about the deadline that I have for my business report tomorrow. Okay, that came into my head. Were there any feelings that I had about that? Okay, I felt a little anxious. Okay, I'm going to recognize that. I'm going to wash it away. I'm going to get back to my mindfulness. And what you essentially just did in that moment is practice mindfulness. You were mindful of the breathing, got interrupted by the thought. You then were mindful of the thought. You washed it away. You're coming back to the mindfulness of the breath. And this is practice, and it's a good thing, and it's okay to be frustrated about it, but we don't need to be frustrated because it creates an opportunity to be present and practice. Okay, so that's why mindfulness is important. That's why I include mindfulness first. For those of you just joining us, mindfulness is being present in the moment without any analysis or judgment, and mindfulness, I believe, is absolutely tantamount and critical in our journey for self-improvement and self-growth, because it enables us to recognize when a pattern is taking place, a programming is taking place, and snap out of it to improve ourselves. Okay, now the second part is what's commonly called the law of attraction, or the miracle of manifestation, or the power of positive thinking. And this is essentially the idea that our thoughts and our perception create our reality. I'm going to give an example. Let's say that you lost your job, and 6 months have gone by, and you have racked up around $15,000 worth of credit card debt. $15,000 to $20,000 of credit card debt in that 6 months. Now, we have a phenomenon, a fact has happened. You have $20,000 worth of credit card debt. That is indisputable. But the way that we perceive this $20,000 worth of credit card, let me give you a little more backstory also. Let's say that you are a driven activist, you want to be an entrepreneur, you lost this job, you lost this opportunity, but really deep inside, you want to be working for yourself or working for your dreams and your goals. The job was simply a means to the end of earning a living, but it wasn't really your passion or your purpose in life. And so in that 6 months since you lost the job, you've been trying and you've been working at building your own business that's more in line with your values and that helps you to serve your purpose, okay? So now, back to the fact that you have $20,000 in credit card debt. Well, there's two ways that you can perceive this $20,000 worth of credit card debt. You can perceive it as something that is crippling, something that you're constantly stressed about, this huge negative thing. I got 12-15% interest rate. I'm having to pay this down. I don't ever know if I'm going to be getting a job again or if I'm going to be able to make this thing work on my own. And meanwhile, this credit card debt is mounting. Oh my God, I feel so stressed. So you can perceive that. You can have those thoughts in relation to this fact, to this natural phenomenon that you have this credit card debt. If you choose to have those thoughts, if you choose to perceive the credit card debt in this way, then as a result, you will struggle. You'll be in pain. You'll be stressed out. This will make it less likely that you're able to achieve your goal of creating a business or an organization that allows you to align fully with your purpose. Now, let's see another way. Again, same $20,000 credit card debt, but we're thinking about it differently. We have a different thought process. We have a different perception of the credit card debt. Same 20K. Now we're thinking, wow, I know it's been 6 months since I've been able to earn a paycheck, but I am so blessed and grateful that I've been able to rely on this Visa credit card debt. I know it's going to take me a long time to pay it off in the future, but in this 6-month period, I have the opportunity to build my own business. And I know that I'm so passionate about this space, and I feel that it so wholly aligns with my purpose that once I get it off the ground, I am going to be making more money than I've ever made before in my entire life, and I'm going to be able to pay that credit card down fast. if we have these thoughts, which we have control over, if we have these thoughts, that completely changes the game to one of a small scarcity mindset to that of abundance, gratitude, doing, building, creativity. Notice the difference. It's the same phenomenon. It's the same $20,000 worth of credit card debt, but in one way, we feel scarce, we feel afraid, we have fear, and in the other realm, we are grateful, we have hope, and we have an abundance mindset. You can say, these damn credit card companies, they lured me in with this big interest rate and this easy money, and now that I need it, I'm just spending, and shame on them, these evil corporations, Visa, MasterCard, and be like all victimed out, right? Or you could say, wow, I'm grateful that there exists an institution, besides all of the fractional reserve banking, of course. You can say, I'm grateful that there exists an institution of credit cards so I can have a safety net after I lost my job. And, I'm going to take this opportunity to build the life of my dreams. All right, so for those of you just watching, we're going over our just tuning in, we're going over 3 foundational epiphanies that I've had in my journey for self-growth and self-improvement. First one, of course, was mindfulness, the miracle of mindfulness, being present in the moment. I put it first because it's absolutely critical for self-growth, because it allows us to be mindful when we're carrying out a pattern. Now we've been talking about law of attraction, manifestation, and the power of our thoughts. Our thoughts and our perceptions literally create our reality. Take the same $20,000 debt, have different thoughts about it. Thoughts of scarcity, overwhelm, fear. I'm never going to be able to pay this credit card off. These damn credit card companies, shame on them. Flip the script. Thoughts of gratitude. Wow, I'm glad that I've had this opportunity. These credit cards have afforded me the opportunity to take a rest after this career that I lost and to build a business that's going to be in line with my purpose. I know I'll be able to pull it off. Your thoughts control your reality. Many people, back to the mindfulness, their thoughts are merely that program. And whenever you become better at mindfulness, you'll be able to catch those thoughts. You'll say something critical of yourself and you'll literally be like, wait a second, that sounds like my mother, for example, or that sounds like my ex-girlfriend that used to say that kind of thing. I'm just carrying that out. Okay, so our thoughts create our reality, and many people aren't aware of this or don't try to change it, but we have control over the internal dialogue, the voice in our heads. It can be used as a great detriment to create insecurity and fear and dread and doubt, and take us down a dark path in our lives where we're not able to realize our true potential. Or, on the flip side, we can leverage the fact that we have control over our internal dialogue to create the life of our dreams, one that's in line with our purpose, that's in line with our value. Law of attraction. And the law of attraction, essentially, for those of you that are aware, is from the movie The Secret, and this guy that channels Abraham Hicks and stuff. It's the idea that the ideas and thoughts that we think attracts like-minded thoughts and frequencies. So if we have a dark energy that's negative, we're putting out a frequency of negativity and darkness, and it'll attract that negativity and darkness. On the flip side, if we have positive thinking and we feel grateful for the credit card debt, then the opportunity to use this credit card to get back on our feet and start our own business, then we will attract abundance. We will attract more money. We'll be able to pay the credit card down quick. And whether there's a scientific basis to that, I believe that there is. I don't think this is a fact. Everything is energy, right? And so there's a certain vibration that different thoughts, different words, different feelings and emotions in our body have, and these like vibrations attract to one another. Besides the scientific rationale and the physical rationale for that, there's a metaphysical way where if you begin to adopt this and you begin to believe this, you'll start to see that it all comes true, and it's a very beautiful thing. Okay, so up until this point, we've talked about mindfulness and law of attraction manifestation. A lot of these thoughts or these kind of things and strategies are kind of hairy-fairy, new age, metaphysical. Let's sit around our circle and talk about all these great things, right? That's important. That's critical. These things are foundational. But if we don't take massive action, which is my third epiphany, the importance of habits and massive action. If we don't actually put this into play through taking action and changing our behavior, then we're just kind of, hip-dipping around and philosophizing, in my opinion. That's my opinion, right? That's what a lot of critics of the law of attraction, The Secret, they're like, oh, you just simply have to think and you'll create abundance and wealth and build a house and this and that. That's not necessarily what was conveyed in those movies, by the way, but there is an element to a lot of people in this space, gurus, people that are in self-improvement and growth, new age kind of stuff, just focus on the thinking and focus on the philosophies and the meditation and mindfulness. And I think something that Tony Robbins taught me is that we got to have all that stuff, but we also got to take massive action. So as of late, I've really been studying habits. This great book called Atomic Habits. I'm almost done with the audiobook. And then I read The Power of Habit recently. Really powerful, potent stuff. And it's our habits that determine our life and who we are. It's where the rubber meets the road. So, for example, if you want to have more wealth and abundance, it's absolutely critical that we create healthy habits. One of the habits that I've started doing is keeping up with my cash flow and my balance sheets and my accounting and bookkeeping as I go. For quite some time in my business, I would retroactively update the books like a month later, 3 months later sometimes, and things were just a lot more spontaneous order and chaos, and I was able to pull it off somehow. It wasn't as abundant as I could be, and there was a lot of stress, and there was coming up short often, which was unfortunate. But I decided, you know what, in 2019, I can't do this anymore. I got to stay on top of this. So I created a habit of keeping up with my books as I went. And I got to tell you, it's really made a difference between night and day in my business, knowing where you are as you're going. But it took me having to develop a habit, to get in the habit of putting that information there as I was going. And it really dramatically helped. Lately, I'm doing a lot of work to help those that are in addiction recovery or that are struggling with addiction. And the habit stuff, man, couldn't be more profound and impactful for addiction. There's four things that make up a habit, the habit loop, habit cycle, right? There is the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. So let's take addiction, for example. Let's say someone's an alcoholic and they drink to numb themselves when they feel stressed out or they're feeling depressed. So there's a cue, right? So maybe you're sitting down on the couch, you're watching TV, there's a soap opera on, and this woman tells the husband that I've been having an affair, and the reason why your marriage fell apart 3 years before was because your wife had an affair. So that's a cue. It reminds you of that pain. The cue is something that triggers you to want to numb that stuff out, right? So you have a cue. You feel hurt, you feel sad, you're reminded, that's the cue. Your craving is then, wow, I really crave to eliminate this pain. Your response, what you become as an alcoholic, it's a habit now, your response is to drink. The reward is to feel better and to not be in pain as much. That's the 4 cycles of a habit, right? And so there's different tactics and strategies that we can utilize knowing that we have these 4 cycles. One of them, and this is from Atomic Habits, is to make the cue like non-existent, to hide from the cue, to get away from it. Another example, let's say you're a former heroin or cocaine user or even a drinker, and you're queued up to use or drink whenever you're around your friends that drink, or whenever you go to the bar or the club, or you're around old Joe, the heroin guy that turned you on to heroin 10 years ago. So what you can do to help change your habits is to eliminate that cue. So don't go to the bar during happy hour to socialize with your friends. Get the heck away from Joe, the heroin user that turned you on to heroin years ago. And for the alcoholic that struggles because his wife cheated on him 3 years ago, don't watch the soap operas that could remind you of that, right? So make it difficult to even have that cue in the first place. Another tactic is to replace the response. Again, there's a cue, there's a craving in response to the cue, there's a response that we execute, that's the actual habit, the action, and then there's a reward. So you could change the response to something more healthy. So same situation, our guy's watching a soap opera, the woman says she's been cheating on her husband and cues him up to have those terrible pains because his wife did the same damn thing 3 years ago. He has the craving, I crave something, so to put the pain away, I crave peace, I crave not thinking about this shit anymore. the response. Replace the response. Instead of going to the fridge and grabbing a beer, maybe you go make a Kratom drink. I don't know. Maybe you order Kratom for Brave Botanicals and make a Kratom drink, a healthier alternative. Still helps you to feel better, relieve the anxiety, but it's not as harmful as alcohol. Better yet, maybe you say, oh my God, I'm starting to feel stressed out. And because you've been practicing mindfulness, our number one epiphany, you recognize that. And now you replace the response with, I'm going on a walk around the block, and I'm going to do walking meditation to take my mind off of this and to bring me back into the present moment where all things are peaceful, blissful, and all things are good. Right? So this habit loop, when we can become mindful and aware and study this habit loop, and whenever we practice mindfulness, we can catch ourselves in the act. We can interrupt the pattern that we previously had, and we can completely change the game for ourselves. Again, my first epiphany was the importance of mindfulness, being able to interrupt that pattern, that program. My second epiphany was the power of our thoughts to create our reality. We talked about the same phenomenon, the same fact. If you have $20,000 in credit card debt, imagine thinking about it as crippling, overwhelming. I'm never going to be able to get out of this debt. These credit card companies are so evil. Or you could have the same phenomenon, $20,000 in credit card debt, and think about it completely differently. Wow, I feel so blessed that we have these institutions that have enabled me to get back on my feet as I build the life of my dreams. That will lead you down a whole different path and help things so much more. And then finally, where the rubber meets the road, it's habits, it's massive action. We can't completely change our lives if we're simply meditating all day and thinking positive thoughts. We got to take massive action. And it's habits that allow us to change our behavior. Habits are responses, things that you do almost automated without really having to think about it. People have bad habits, people have good habits. When we become more mindful, we can recognize the bad habits and we can take active steps in order to eliminate the bad habits. We recognize good habits, we can take active steps in order to maximize the good habits. I'm just going to hit on a couple more tips and tactics that I'm learning from this book, Atomic Habits, and then we're going to let you go until next time. One thing that you can do is make the reward better. So if you have a good habit, really increase the reward. So let's say you have a reward you want to exercise more, right? So in order to make it more likely that you're going to exercise, add a reward onto the end of it. For example, every time I exercise for 1 hour, afterwards I am going to take a nice hot bath with this new bath bombs that I got. So now in your brain and your mind, you begin to associate the act of exercise with the bath bomb. What you'll find as time goes on is the intrinsic benefits and rewards of working out, increased stamina, better health, more endorphins. Those will naturally just take on and help you out a whole lot. Another way to help with habits, to establish habits, is to have an accountability partner, especially if they're in the same space. So addiction, for example, have an accountability partner that's also working to overcome an addiction, and check in with one another and check in with how you've been doing with your habits as of late. That can help a whole lot. Another great strategy when it comes to habits is called habit stacking. So chances are we already have habits that we engage in. Let's say we wanted to add some habits, okay? So if you want to read more before you go to sleep, you have a goal of reading 30 minutes before you go to sleep. Let's say you have a habit of making the bed every day. After you do the habit of making the bed, stack on another habit that you just get in a program of doing one habit after the other, of setting the book on top of your pillow. Now when you're mindful, you're in your habit mode, you're doing your morning routine, you set the book on top of the pillow after you make your bed, it's there waiting for you whenever you go to bed to remind you to read. This is just one of the many tips, tactics, and strategies that I've been learning when it comes to maximizing our good habits and eliminating bad habits. So that's it. Again, for those of you just joining, I'm just going to do a quick recap. I've been on a journey for self-improvement and self-growth for several years now. I've been applying these principles and practices to my business and to my life. And even though there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in my life right now, I feel like I am in a good space and things are going well for me. My relationships are improving, my business is improving, and most importantly, my relationship with myself is improving. I'm not sure the author off the top of my head. It's called Atomic Habits. I'm listening to it on Audible. The other one's really popular. It's called The Power of Habit. Both of them are absolutely foundational and fundamental when it comes to habits and taking massive action. Again, I believe habits and massive action are where the rubber meets the road. I shared some of the biggest epiphanies that I've had over the past several years, and what I believe to be some foundational and critical elements of anyone's self-improvement and self-growth journey. The first of which, I put it first because it's most important, is mindfulness. Being present in the moment, free of judgment and analysis. Mindfulness is important when it comes to self-improvement and self-growth because it allows us to be mindful and aware that we're playing out patterns and programs that have been imparted upon us in our past, and it allows us to interrupt those patterns. The law of attraction is my second big epiphany, and it's the idea that our thoughts create our reality, and if we have positive thoughts, we will attract positive things into our life. I gave a great example of someone that's in $20,000 worth of credit card debt. There's two different ways they can think about this same fact, this same phenomenon. One of them is they can be crippled by it. They can be stressed. They can be anxious. They can worry about it. This will lead to them becoming more in debt, making it harder for them to pay off this debt and to succeed financially. On the flip side, you have the same $20,000 debt. You can think about it as a great opportunity since you lost your job. I'm grateful that there's institutions like Visa and MasterCard that allow me the opportunity to get back on my feet, to continue to pay for my groceries and my bills, and to build the life of my dreams doing a job or whatever it is that I desire to do. The power of our thoughts. I also talked about how we have control over the internal dialogue, and that internal dialogue can make our life a living hell, make us insecure, stressed, anxious all the time, or that internal dialogue can empower us to live to our highest potential, as they say on Ninjago, which my kids watch. And then the third and final epiphany that I've had is that the rubber meets the road with massive action and habits actually changing your behavior. Mindfulness and the law of attraction alone, they're more hairy-fairy and metaphysical. If we really want true change, we have to adopt those principles and be aware of those philosophies, but we have to take massive action, and the massive action is changing our behavior. The best way to change our behavior and in turn to change our whole life and our whole sense of well-being is to focus on habits. Those things, those activities, those actions we engage in almost automatically. We have bad habits like drinking, sleeping in, not keeping up with our books. We have good habits like exercise, eating well, meditating every day. There's certain tips, tactics, and strategies I shared only just to you. I'll share more in the future on how we can maximize the good habits and minimize the bad habits and lead a better life. This has been John Bush with the Brave New You Self-Improvement Group and the Brave New You Recovery Group. If you suffer from addiction or struggle with addiction, then I invite you to join our self-improvement group, our recovery group. I'll share a link here, but you can just search Brave New You Recovery Support Group. Join our group. If you just want some general assistance and to find a community that's on the same wavelength, improving their life through self-growth, manifestation, mindfulness, habits, then check out the Brave New You Self-Improvement Group. Just search Brave New You Self-Improvement Group on Facebook. All right, this is John Bush. Peace and love. I love you. Hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.